All right, welcome back. All right, let's get started. Can we get started? Let's see. Right, so last week we got started with React. It was one of two frameworks that we're going to be taking a look at. First, we're using a stack that contains React as the front end, Java in the middle tier, and MySQL in the database. And in the second half of the semester, we'll change the stack so that we'll play around with a mean stack that will be Angular in the front end, Node.js and Express in the middle tier, and Mongo in the back end. Again, both of them are focused on implementing two different parts of the same application, one from the point of view of the faculty, which is the first half of the semester, and the second half of the semester is implementing the student side of the application. Same application, different stacks, talking to one another, integrated seamlessly. So we did React. We introduced React last week. It was a single-page application, meaning it dynamically loads content from the server, and then manipulates the DOM to render the content on the client, and then goes back to the server for any data that it needs to then fill in and update the content as appropriate. Now, for the assignment, you were asked to create a service, a course service that right now is not actually talking to a server, right? It's only hosting the content locally on the client, so it has no data access to the server, not yet. In the upcoming assignment, not this assignment, the next one, the REST assignment on week 5. We will then connect it to a RESTful service for the data access. But meanwhile, this week, number 3 and 4, it's all going to be on the client side. So we can focus on React, Redux, right, everything that has to do just with the React framework. All right. So last week we used plain React, even to maintain the state on the client, meaning when you added courses, when you added lessons and whatnot, it was all being, we were using just basic React state, this.state, this.setState and whatnot. And basically the pattern was that the state was being maintained by a top level component, oftentimes referred to as a container, the one who maintains the state, and it would then share that state with child components that would then either render smaller sections of the application, or part of some iteration as it iterated over an array of state. Today we're going to look at an alternative solution to that same this same need of maintaining state on the client. One of the criticisms of using the out-of-the-box solution is that you find yourself having to deal with a lot of communication amongst multiple components at different layers. Right? You might have at the top the whiteboard that contains a grid and a grid and a table. Thank you. Which then in turn shares it with the editors, which in turn shares them with the module list, which in turn shares them with the lessons. And so this communication back and forth and where to handle all the updates is it's somewhat messy. You find yourself having to what some folks refer to as drilling or property drilling. You're sending all these properties down to the lower level components, right? And then they have to then call all these event handlers all the way up the chain, right, to change the state at a higher level, and then trickle down to the components. So it's somewhat awkward, right, of just going back and forth. So Redux takes a completely different approach, and in that it decouples this particular responsibility of maintaining state, and says, well, React is not going to handle it. There's going to be something completely separate. It'll be one place where all the state occurs, and then you can feed it in anywhere you want at any level that you wish. As long as you know what the structure is, you can pick and choose what it is that you want to graph from. Also introduces a whole bunch of other capabilities of or ways to think about state, as in instead of the state being a mutable object where the state changes over time, but there's only one single state. Redux introduces the idea that the state is immutable. You're just traversing between different versions of that state, right? That every time you make an action, you don't really change the state. You just generate a brand new state that happens to have a different value, right? A completely different state, and then you can create multiple or an infinite number of state that the applications could be in, and you can just jump around and be in any state that you want, right? And as you interact and generate events, you just happen to be jumping between any one of these infinite states, right? That some of them might have been already created, some of them have not yet been created, but there's only a finite set of state that you could possibly be in. It could be a large set of states that you could be in, but the application can navigate between different states, and the front end responsibility is only to just render that particular state, right? This introduces all sorts of new possibilities. For instance, being able to navigate between states backwards and forward, where you might have a history of states, and a back button might allow you to just go back to a previous state that was already existent, that you generated earlier. So you can fast forward and go back and forth at any particular state that you were in. So it's pretty cool. So all sorts of new ideas. Although it has these very powerful features, it has a steep learning curve. Right? Redux is very hard to get going, to set up and to plug in everything, all the plumbing. Once the plumbing is done, then it's easy to go on, right? But it's really hard to get started, right? But once you get over that hump, then and you understand how the things are flowing, it gets pretty easy. So I'm gonna start with some really trivial examples, just to show how all the state changes happen and how they're generated and whatnot, and then we'll progressively get somewhat more challenging and ambitious. Okay. Any questions before we get started? Yes.
Are there things that we should be doing in terms of the project right now?
We'll go over the project today, what the requirements are. There's going to be some generic requirements for everybody. Yeah, we'll take a look at that today. Anything else?